Am I the a-hole for refusing to apologize so I can live with my dad again? I've 16 male been living with my grandparents for the last 4 months. The reason has a lot of background, but I'll make it short. I was bullied a lot by this girl, Sarah, 16, in school. She bullied many of us, from kindergarten on. When I was 9, my dad and Sarah's mom started dating. I felt so betrayed and hurt. Sarah didn't stop bullying. My dad and his, now wife, tried to explain why Sarah was as awful as she was, saying she had lots of trauma. But it didn't change anything for me. Sarah's told me she hopes I end up like my mom, who was left with severe brain damage and needs 24/7 care in a facility. She encouraged another kid to hurt themselves and threatened to unalive someone else. So my dad making her a stepchild was really hurtful to me, and expecting us to be a family felt like a huge betrayal. Around 2 years ago, I went from being terrified of her to hating her. And I really hate her by now. 4 months ago, my dad and his wife told me Sarah was sick and could die. I couldn't even pretend to be upset. My dad's wife said I should be more concerned, and I told her I don't care if Sarah dies. She's made my life hell, and I'd be happier with her out of my life. She started freaking out, claiming I wanted Sarah dead. I told her Sarah isn't a good person and nobody at school will be sad about it. She insisted I needed to leave. My dad was upset and told me he didn't want to lose me, but he didn't approve of what I said. I told him I don't care what he thinks, and that he betrayed me when he brought Sarah into his family. I told him I could never forgive him for it. My dad's wife is okay with me moving back in if I apologize. For the last month, my dad has asked me to apologize so I can live with him again. I said no. I told him I'm not sorry and that none of them deserve an apology. He said he's not choosing them over me, and I told him not now he's not, but he already did when he chose to date Sarah's mom. My dad's wife is angry that I won't apologize. My dad is upset because he wants me back, and Sarah's getting worse and hasn't found a match for a transplant yet. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Your dad should have defended you from the start. He's the instigator of this entire problem. Don't apologize. The dad is definitely the instigator and owes him an apology. Yup, people act like they have to get married and live together. If your kids don't get along, for whatever reason, then just date until the kids are out of the house. What an awful situation, and grown adults put you there through their bad choices. And they are still making those bad choices. Why do they care what you think? What does your presence accomplish? Do they think you will sit and hold her hand to keep her from being bored while sick? Personally, as a parent, I wouldn't want you near her while she is sick and vulnerable. You have every right in the world to treat her as badly as she treated you while she is unable to fight back. And it would be incredibly tempting. I couldn't say that I'd trust myself in the same situation, but that would hurt you in the long run. I'd want to protect you from your young, angry, and emotionally immature self as much as I could by keeping you away. You don't need that kind of temptation. None of us do. Not the a-hole. My dad hasn't wanted to protect me from Sarah at all, so it doesn't surprise me that he's not interested in doing it now. If he cared about protecting me, he never would have made Sarah his stepdaughter and never would have accepted her as his family. But he did, fully knowing what she was doing to me. I wouldn't wish death on anyone, even my high school bullies. But I understand your pain and frustration at the fact your dad put your well-being and safety aside for the sake of his relationship. If Sarah has a lot of trauma, that's up to her to work through instead of taking it out on the rest of the world. Sarah's basically my lifelong bully at this point. It never stopped, so I would be lying to say I feel bad for her or hope she's okay. I just don't have it in me to feel like that toward her. It's not easy having compassion for those who hurt us. I would say take all the anger and pain you have toward her and let it go, for your own sake. You're stronger than you think you are. You've handled everything so far with much more grace than most people would have. I can't let it go. It took a long time for me to get angry, but I can't just let it go. Maybe when I've had her out of my life for a long time, it can happen. But I'll always have some amount of hate or disdain for her. She's one of the worst people I know, and I have zero compassion or sympathy for her. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom she's allowed to get married again, but it doesn't mean I'll approve? My dad died when I, 26 male, was 17. Now my mom has gotten serious with someone else, a guy my dad worked with. This is a man who hated my dad, and my dad hated him. My mom and I both knew about it. There was bad blood between them for almost 20 years. When my dad died, her future husband was the only person at the job who didn't sign a sympathy card for us, and my dad would have done the same for him. So for me, there's a strong dislike of my mom's choice of partner. But they connected 2 years ago and fell hard for each other. She's excited to marry him and have a future together. She's even talked about sharing grandkids, which made me grimace. I told her that wouldn't happen, and that's when we had a conversation. I told her she can marry whoever she wants, but marrying him is not something I approve of. I said I will not allow him to be a grandfather to my future kids, and I won't try to get close to him. My mom told me that's unfair. I told her she can feel that way, but that man hated my dad, and my dad hated him. There's no part of me that wants him around, but I accept that she does. I told her I've come to terms with her choice of partner, but I want him in my life as little as possible. She told me he's a good man, and yes, it's awkward with his feelings about my dad, but we shouldn't hate him for it, and it's easy to love. I told her I'm not going to love or accept a man who hated my dad. I asked her how we'll handle my dad's presence being a part of my life, especially at my upcoming wedding next year. She told me it won't be easy for him and admitted that a lot of people are already against him because of his and my dad's feud. My mom got upset and said she really wants my approval of him and for him to be accepted as a future grandfather and father-in-law to my fiancé. I told her I'll never stop her from marrying him, but I won't approve. She's angry and upset with me. She said she wants to share her happiness with him and believes she deserves it, even if I don't think he does. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You told the truth. It's an odd situation. She can be happy. It doesn't mean you have to pretend. Yeah, odd is a good way to describe it. Not the a-hole. Your mom is allowed to find love again, but you're equally allowed to have boundaries about someone who openly disliked your dad and wouldn't even sign a sympathy card when he passed. That's pretty cold. Your response was actually really mature. You're not trying to stop their relationship or marriage. You're just being honest about your own boundaries. You're not obligated to pretend this guy is going to be some loving father figure or future grandpa when he couldn't even show basic human decency when your dad died. The whole sharing grandkids thing is especially wild coming from your mom. She can't force a relationship between her future husband and your kids just because she wants to play happy family. That's not how it works. Also, the fact she's acknowledging it won't be easy for him to handle your dad being mentioned at your wedding is a huge red flag. This guy's beef with your dad was so deep he's uncomfortable with basic respect for the deceased at his own stepson's wedding? Yikes. Stand your ground, OP. You're being way more reasonable than most people would be in this situation. Your mom can marry whoever she wants, but she needs to accept that actions and past behavior have consequences. OP, you never thought to ask your mom, why him? Out of all the men in the world, she had to defile your father's memory with a man she's known for years her beloved husband hated? Something's fishy. Do you think your mom truly loved your father? I know my mom loved my dad, even if it's harder for me to see right now based on her choices. We've talked about it, but I just can't understand. Not the a-hole, but I would talk to the guy. Ask him the hard questions. Why did he sign the card? How does he feel about your mom keeping a picture of your dad displayed at the house so the grandkids can be told stories and memories of their birth grandfather? How has he changed to become a person your mom can love? Maybe ask your mom how she even felt comfortable enough to go on a date with him. What has he done to prove he's not still holding a grudge against your dad? If his answers seem appropriate, I'd agree to holidays and occasional dinners and see how things progress. As a parent, I always believe the more people who love and care for my kids, the better, even if I don't like the people. If they are generally good people, they can be around my kids. If he can't give good answers, F him. I am not interested in talking to him. He isn't welcome in my future kids' lives, even if he loves them. The idea repulses me. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not continuing a relationship with my ex-wife's daughter? My wife of 8 years had an affair with a coworker. I stayed married to her because our daughters had been together since they were 2 and 3. She had an affair with the same guy again, so I threw her out and divorced her. Now, she texts and emails me despite me telling her to leave me alone, begging me to maintain a relationship with her daughter and to allow my daughter to have one with her as well. I've explained to her several times that they aren't sisters and I'm not her daughter's father. Her own father is a POS, so I get it, but that's not my problem anymore. She should have considered the consequences of her actions before doing anything. I was okay with raising a kid that wasn't mine while we were married, but she showed her appreciation for that by cheating. Now, she doesn't get access to me in any capacity. She tells me I'm cruel and heartless because her kid is miserable without us. I told her to ask the guy she cheated on me with to raise her kid. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. It is sad for the kids, but it's better for you to make a clean break so everyone can heal. My dad was married, and I had a stepbrother and stepsister for a while when I was a kid. They divorced, and I never saw them again. I lived. To this day, I don't even think about them or their mom. Not the a-hole. You were there for her daughter while you were married, but after the affair, it's understandable that you want to distance yourself. You're not obligated to keep that relationship going, especially after everything that happened. I completely agree. Sometimes a clean break is the best way to heal, even if it's tough for the kids. They'll adjust in time, just like you did, OP. Not the a-hole. As a social worker, my heart hurts for the child who lost an adult she was attached to because of her mother's actions. She's not your responsibility, of course, but if you haven't already, you might consider having a conversation with her to answer any questions she might have before completely disappearing from her life. Maybe the mother should answer those questions, since she's the one who made the effort to cheat, not once, but twice. It's not his responsibility to explain to her daughter why her mom couldn't stay faithful. The mom needs to take accountability for her actions and explain them to her daughter. Never date a single mother. It only benefits her. I'm 48. I don't have anything in common with girls in their 20s, and women in my age range all have kids. So, never date again? Spend some time by yourself and decide on the characteristics you want in a potential partner. Don't rush things. Get to know her. In all honesty, based on Reddit, it sounds like most men cheat. I've honestly wondered if there are men in the world who want to be monogamous. Anyway, not everyone is the same. You just haven't met your person yet. Don't shut down your heart. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad he's a better stepdad than dad, and I won't stick around to watch if it keeps happening? My 16 female dad isn't the worst dad ever or anything. He works to provide for me. He wishes me happy birthday every year and says he loves me sometimes. He buys me gifts for Christmas and my birthday, and he takes me to the doctor if I need to go, or used to. But he's never spent any time with me. When Mom was alive, he never felt the need to, I guess, since I had her. After she died, he wasn't there to comfort me or anything. That was left to a few different family members on both sides of my family. When he got married again, he made a bigger effort with his stepkids, 13 female and 10 male. He's been married for over 4 years now, and it takes his stepkids out one-on-one. He goes camping with them, takes them for pizza and ice cream after school on Fridays, and take them to football games for local plays. He still doesn't do the same with me. I've never spent quality time with my dad, but for over 4 years, more like 5 counting the time he was dating his wife, I've been forced to watch him to do better for her kids. His wife has tried to take over as the parent for me, but I don't want her to. While I'm civil, I haven't worked on us being close because I don't want to. I've instead tried to get him to be a better dad to me and failed. His wife has asked why I don't let her to be the mom I need, and I told her I don't want her or a new mom. I want my dad to be the parent I need instead of being that to her kids, who aren't even his. My dad's stepdaughter wants me to be her big sister, but my focus has been on dad. I haven't worked on building a relationship with either of his stepkids. I'm nice. I don't ignore them if they talk to me, but none of these relationships are going to happen if my dad decides he's never going to step up for me. We had a talk a few days ago. His stepdaughter had been really disappointed I wouldn't go to a concert with her, and Dad wanted to talk to me about it. I finally opened up to him and told him everything I feel and how I see it. I even pointed out that it was the most he had ever said to me, maybe ever, and it was to tell me his family was hurting because I didn't accept them. I asked him when he had taken me for pizza and ice cream, camping, or to watch something, anything. He started to say it was different, and I told him it wasn't really. I said they have their mom, just like I had mine for 8 years, but he still saw a need to be there for them and not me. I told him it hurt, and I told him his wife isn't making up for that if he won't even try to be a good dad. He told me I should see why he needed to bond with his stepkids and make them his, not just stepkids. I told him a bond wasn't automatic, just because he was always present in some way in my life. I said he never cared about our connection. I told him to face facts. He's a better stepdad than he is a dad. I said if that's how things will stay, fine, but I'm going to keep my distance and leave as soon as I can. I said I'm not going to stick around and watch this anymore if that's how things will be. I told him I'd become estranged and lean on family, the real family who care about me. He didn't say anything else and walked away, but the next day, he told me it was unfair to claim he is a better stepdad and that I judged him too harshly. His wife said I'm behaving spitefully by refusing to join her and her kids as a family because of dad's actions. Am I the a-hole? I think you telling him and how you told him was the right thing to do. Now it's up to him, though his reaction the next day clearly points to gaslighting you. He wants to please his new wife by cajoling the stepkids. He either takes you for granted or doesn't care very much about you. His response in the next few days will tell you which of the two is true. Totally. I'm not hopeful that he'll come around, but at least I know and can move on for good and stop trying. It was so brave of you to communicate honestly with your dad. I'm sorry he's such a flaming a-hole. You certainly aren't one. The fact that he walked away just means that he does not care. You were better off without him. You were not the a-hole, and that sucks. That's how I took it too, or at least that he doesn't care enough. Honey, I'm so very sorry your dad is this way. You deserve a dad who chooses you. Can you propose family counseling between just you and him? Maybe a therapist will be able to get through to him. I could, but I won't. I'm done trying after this. This is all up to him now.